Are you confused with social media like majority of us business owners, us plus 45ers? Well, on today's episode, you're going to realize why. Here's the step that we're missing: the power of a coach. Can you recall one thing in your life that you excelled in that you didn't have a coach? So why in the world do we just create social media channels and start posting and expect anything other than dismal results without a coach? Here we go. We're here with Mr. Derrick Smith from Egghead Social. Welcome to our WhyNotResults studio and podcast. I'm so happy to get to know you. You have no idea how excited I am.
Thank you so much, Murray. I appreciate it.
Totally mean that. We've been making video content here at WhyNotResults for a long time. Being a business owner all of my adult life, having different businesses, I've definitely been experiencing the pain of marketing.
Right.
From starting from the traditional days of coupons and on placemats and a paper value coupon, whatever the coupon packs, clear into the modern age of digital marketing. And WhyNotResults here, making a lot of videos for people and for my own personal business ventures. And I have gone through life making video just to make video without necessarily focusing on the purpose of what I'm trying to make, which is exactly what you bring to the table.
I try.
Right? To help bring that plan and help hone in what I should be saying and thinking about bringing to the clients versus what I want.
Correct.
That's fair? Is that safe?
That's fair.
So again, everybody, Derrick Smith from Egghead Social. I'm going to say social media strategist, but what do you call yourself, sir?
A social media strategist.
Social media.
Yeah. Social media strategist. I like to throw the word marketing sometimes in there so people can not be afraid of social media, but social media strategist. Okay. Yeah. So basically that means that I look at analytics all day and I read about the algorithms that different platforms are putting forth because they change.
I know we hate that.
Yeah. Well, when it changes, it's how does it change and how much does your strategy have to change with it? But the changes aren't that nuclear. They're not that major. Right. But the pivots are necessary. But social media strategist is the title. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I can tell you as a 50-year-old, today's world, I grew up with the Nintendo. I did have a cell phone, my first cell phone, though. I was so proud of my little StarTAC, little flip phone that I had when I was like 19. I just thought I was king shit, man. I was the guy, man. I thought I was cool. I cannot stand social media.
Really? Okay.
I hate it. And most of my buddies do.
Okay.
Right. Most business owners that I'm around, we don't like it. It's a thorn in our side. I enjoy it as a consumer.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right. I enjoy all the funny things I see. I love getting educated on this tip, that tip, AI, this, whatever it might be. I love NASA and seeing all that stuff. and so my chaotic brain loves all the wide variety of information that's thrown at me.
Sure.
But as a business owner, in trying to get my purpose and message out there in a way that the consumer wants to absorb it.
Right.
Bro. Yeah. This is a terrible environment to be in for me.
Most business owners that I speak with, if I'm networking, I speak to a business owner and I bring up social media, that's what resonates with most people. They have that it's a fear. It's a bit of a fear. It's more put on their plate. Right. And when you start speaking and talking about it, let's say someone's trying to convince you that their social media skills and services are what you need. Oftentimes, these individuals speak from the standpoint of the vanity score of how they can increase your reach and your engagements and whatnot. And then there are a lot of moving parts with that. Right. And so dynamically, as a business owner, you're thinking, okay, I have all these things over here that I have to get done. Now you're telling me I have to have the right lighting. You're telling me that I have to look at analytics. What does that mean again? And then the algorithm. Who created the algorithm? It can be overwhelming.
And how many channels?
Right. How many platforms? And then, LinkedIn is not a digital resume. You're killing me. Right. So it can become a lot. And I understand that. And that's why I exist. I love it. I would say the reason why I really appreciate it is I try to avoid using the word manipulate. But what you're doing is you're trying to find the trend and the sweet spot by which your brand, right, is going to resonate with your ideal consumer at the end of the day. That's what you're doing. And so in order to do that, you have to pay attention to the behavior. And the behavior is in the numbers, basically, right? The analytics. And most of these platforms have analytics.
And none of us understand that. What analytics are important.
Okay, got you. Right. And that's fair. And that's fair because when you look at the analytics, something as simple as how long I'm putting a video out. How long is my audience looking at my video? Right.
Which is demoralizing again.
Say again?
So, which is demoralizing again. When you see that only 10 people saw the video, and only one stuck around for 25%.
Right. And see that, but that becomes the...
You're just another negative attribute of...
Right. Because we're looking at things very, very surface, right? We're always, and unbeknown to ourselves, that subliminal, I'm comparing. I'm looking at my social media platforms. I'm looking at this person over here and they have more followers. They have more engagements. I want to be able, and we fail to realize that those 100 likes or those 15 likes, that's amazing. Truly, it is, because it's all a vanity score when it's nothing more than a like. It's nothing more than an engagement, a comment. Well, what do you mean a vanity score? It's more or less, people have said, whether they like your information, your content or not, your content has made them respond, right? Okay. Whether it's negative or positive, that's a positive that they've responded. Okay. I'm not talking about the spam posts that are comments. I'm talking about a real organic individual, not a bot, a real organic individual that has responded to your content. But again, what we tend to do is, let's say you're the business owner that, okay, I'm putting out my product on these social media platforms. I'm trying to be as organic in my messaging as possible. My lighting is great. My video is at 4K. Yes, the file is large, but I'm trying to do this to the best of my understanding. And the burnout happens because we're expecting these great results and we're not getting them. And so when most of us are posting, whether it's a business, whether you're an individual, whether you're some high school student, and you're just posting your socials, most times when we post, we cross our fingers and we hope to God, I hope this goes viral, and I hope a lot of people respond because I want that dopamine fix. Right?
I've never said those words.
Right. But at the same time, a business owner is like, how can I turn this? Well, the business owner should be asking, how can I turn this into revenue? Forget the vanity score. Right. And that's where a lot of business owners, from my experience, that's where they miss it. Right. Because there's so much money.
Right.
Yeah. There's so much money being left on the table. And when people can really grasp that the amount of money being left on the table by their lack of understanding how to curate that audience or that demographic with the right strategy of implementation, right? I think they'll take it a little bit more serious.
Well, and you said something there that just made me have an aha moment about how I very much underestimated the power of even having 10 people comment on something, striving to get them to engage, right? Because I've kind of always gone through all these past years of making content, of making posts, looking at it solely as a resume for people in the credibility piece. So they heard about us, they're going to go research us.
Sure.
I just want to be relevant when they go to research us.
Yes.
But you're absolutely right. I've completely missed the boat thinking that I need to have 10,000, 100,000 subscribers in order to make money off of this. I should have had this conversation, been much more intentional
right
out of the gates, I think is what you're saying.
Right.
And be proud of getting some action versus no, any action is action.
Exactly. But at the same time, Mario, there's a lot of influencers and they mean well. And they'll say, listen, it's better to post anything than not to post at all. And I ride that wave as well. Right.
I'm guilty on that path.
Yeah. Yeah. And because you should post. Right. But at the same time, we're not telling you to look for the trends in your posting. What's your messaging about? Did you look at how your audience or whatever audience engaged your content? What was the common denominator with that? Right. So you posted 20, you made 20 posts in 1 month. Okay. What are your top 5 posts? Okay. What are the similarities in those posts that made them the top 5 posts? Okay, now let's focus for the next 30 days on just that to see if we can gain more traction, right? It's just those little small micro pivots that mean much. I can look at anyone's social media fingerprint and do an audit, right? That's basically me looking at their socials, looking at how many times they post, How many times are they posting a week? What are they talking about? What are the subject matters? And now how is that audience resonating with this, with the content? And does the content resonate with the brand? Right? Because a lot of times we just post, but we forget the purpose. We forget what's the priority with my post, right? Speaking with a family member recently, I was telling you this earlier, family member was very frustrated with her posts. And I'm like, why are you frustrated with your posts? She's a fitness trainer. She's beautiful. You would think as soon as she makes a post, the world over will be looking at her content, right? But the world over is not looking at her content. But what she failed to realize is you're posting regularly and you have engagements. Okay. Now let's go down the rabbit hole of understanding your engagements. But more importantly, and I asked her, why did you make the post? So I started going through her posts. Why did you make this post? Why did you make this post? More importantly, what did you want me to do when I saw the post? Right? I was telling her about a book I read by Steve Jobs. What did Steve say? A consumer doesn't know what they want until you tell them. Right? So when people post, I say all the time, so where am I going after I look at your post? Okay, I watched your 45-second video. Great video. What do you want me to do now? Because trust me, if I see if I see a reference to a video game, if I see a reference to the latest Superman movie that's coming out, you've lost me. I'm gone.
Right.
I'm gone. I'm not coming back. Right. So that's where CTAs come in. That's where lead magnets come in. Right. And so I start educating on what those are, which are nothing more than call to actions and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I definitely leave out of videos. Right. And I'm definitely guilty of not doing exactly what you're describing.
Right.
And guilty of doing exactly what I shouldn't be doing, which is just making content to make content, right? With content, in my mind, there's purpose to it,
right?
But I'm not looking at these social channels currently as like every post could potentially bring in a client.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I'm not looking at it in that context.
Right.
But I'm kind of looking at, well, if I could just slowly grow my channel.
That's exactly. We're focused on the vanity of it, the growth of how many subscribers on YouTube or how many followers on Instagram, right? And what we're not doing is thinking about us. We're not thinking about them, the consumer.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely right.
The mindset, in my opinion, from the successful side of doing social media right is I need to fall in love with the concerns of my potential consumer, like baseline. If I go into this with that mindset, now I'm going to win because I have the cheat code. The cheat code is knowing what the consumer wants, right? Sometimes if you don't know what the consumer wants, what's the best value to what you're offering? How have consumers in the past responded to what you're offering? What do your services do for a consumer that makes it super convenient, fast, and efficient? With the world we live in, things have to be pretty quick, right? So how do we talk to that? What's that message look like, right? It's almost like tapping into that consumer's emotional fibers. When you can do that, and then you add to that a roadmap of where you want them to go, because it's all the value add. So I come to your platform, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, whatever. I watch a video, and yes, you can put videos on LinkedIn, and I watch the video, right? And it's a compelling video, and it moved me. Now, as the content creator, I know that I want them to respond a certain way when they watch this content. So if I put a video out on Instagram, okay, this is Instagram Reel, I want that person to go to my bio. I want them to hit a link. I want to either take them to a POS, which is a point of sale. I want to take them to a CTA, which can be them receiving more information. There's a reason why when you're on YouTube, are you familiar with what's called end screens?
I'm not.
Okay. So, and you've seen them before. When you go to a YouTube video, you watch the whole video. Now, if you watch the whole video into its entirety, that content creator will oftentimes add an end screen. The end screen is last 15 seconds of that video. You see those boxes that pop up?
Oh, yeah.
Those are called end screens.
Okay.
So that's them saying, now, since you've gotten to this far in the video, I want you to click that video there, right? because it maybe ties into this concept that we're talking about now, or it's something else that you might be interested in. Or click this video over here or this video over here.
And so you're saying the content creator themselves chose to put that, they chose that in
Yes.
screen?
So
I thought that was just YouTube doing that.
So YouTube has the infrastructure by which the content creator can utilize that feature. Okay. Many content creators abandon that feature.
I had no idea about that feature. We've been using YouTube forever. I didn't realize that we could actually influence that.
Yes. You can add end screens and you can add cards. Now, a card within YouTube. So let's say this is a video now. Someone's watching this video. Okay.
Right.
And your card can come up in the upper right-hand corner that is basically information on another video that you did. Right. And they can hover over that video, click it over that card and click it and get more information. It's interactive. It's in real time. Right. It's almost like a lower third. So with lower thirds, that's really huge for long form content on YouTube. And many of the lower thirds that I'm used to that I think are very successful are those cool pop-ups. Back in the day, if you're creating your content on YouTube or any other platform, you want to tell the audience to subscribe, hit the notification bell, blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
I still encourage that. Or you can do that, or you can have the tech work for you. So as we're talking, the video, the lower third can just come up, click the link below in the description. Exactly. And so now the conversation is not interrupted. Okay. And as a consumer, I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. Now I'm still listening to Derrick and Mario, but I'll scroll down and I can see all the other links that's taking me places. And the conversation is still influencing where I go. Again, it's not content that you're just putting up randomly and not taking them down the rabbit hole. The concept has to be when you put a video out, I don't care if it's a short, I don't care if it's a long form, you should influence or try to persuade or convince the audience to do something else. And if you're not doing that, I believe it's a waste of content.
Well, and what you're saying is it needs to be intentional.
Exactly.
Right. And I think we go through, I know I get caught up in just talking about the subject matter at hand.
Sure.
And losing sight of the actual, what am I trying to accomplish? And so not only talking about the subject matter and seeming like an expert in my area that I'm talking about, but I've also simultaneously need to not overlook the fact that there's a purpose for this video. It has some intention.
Right.
Somebody like yourself on the strategy side, which I've been missing, is the fact that when you aren't getting any views or any of the particular, when you're looking at the analytics and they're not showing what you want.
Okay.
Right. I think, what I'm looking forward to learning from you is, you got to first recognize what is it that you don't want or what you're trying to do. And I think we don't recognize that we just miss that step. Right. And then what intentional things can you do to change that behavior or the consumer's behavior, actually.
Right.
See, but it's got to start with changing your own behavior and making, recognizing that you're not doing this as the content creator.
Right.
So that ultimately it drives your consumer or your avatar to do what you're wanting them to do,
Exactly, Mario. And that's where I would say that statement you just made is where, from my experience, the disconnect has happened with business owners. So what I mean, it's okay, Derrick, you want me to work harder now. And I'm like, well, if you don't have a social media team, yes, because see, watch this. You said you have to start with yourself first to say, okay, where is my content not hitting? Because the consumers are not behaving and not engaging me like I want. Okay. So let me look at for example, if you go to YouTube, right? YouTube does a great job of giving you all the answers you need. We just miss it. For example, you go to YouTube, you can see somebody's homepage and then you see the videos and it shows you their recent content and their most popular. We just overlook that. But if you go to someone's YouTube channel, click their most popular or their highest viewed content, right? That's the baseline. So I go to your YouTube channel, I click popular or the most sought after content that has the most views.
Okay.
If one goes to their own YouTube channel, they're putting out enough content and they see those popular, let's say there's 6 videos, it's their best content. Why would you make any other content outside of your top 6 for the next 90 days? Right? But we don't think like that. We're like, well, I have this great idea. I understand that. But you have 6 topics that you talked about. It's your best content, and you have 500 pieces of content. And these 6 are crushing it. Let's bask in those 6 different concepts that are hitting the mark with this audience the most. And let's do that for 30 to 90 days. Why 30 to 90 days? Because that's going to give you a nice bird's eye view of behavior to mess with it. Now, on my end of the scale as a strategist, I'm looking at the analytics. How was my lighting in those 6 videos? What did I talk about? How was I sitting? Who was my guest if I had a guest? Where was I at? What was I wearing? Right? So I consider all those things because I want to incite the audience to watch the content more engagements, more comments. Okay. When you do that, and over the course of 30 to 90 days, you start to see, and it never fails. You start to see trends. Okay. You start to see trends within the analytics of YouTube or Instagram or TikTok and LinkedIn often. LinkedIn is very impressions based, but even on LinkedIn. So if you start we call them micro pivots, start pivoting towards those behaviors because the audience is telling you, this is what I want. This is what I like because I engaged it. Right. And you slowly start piecing together. I'm going to make content like this, like that. Then, of course, we have this wonderful thing called AI. Okay. So watch this. Now, you can take your top 6 videos, top 10 videos. Again, these are the videos where you have the audience mostly engaged and just viewed your content, right? So how, Derrick, do I create more content around my best content? Well, nowadays, it's 2025. You don't have to figure it out. ChatGPT can figure that out for you. Right. So what was the topic of those? In fact, you can do this.
That has been a blessing for that.
Right.
Ideas.
You can go into, let's call it Google Chrome. Google Chrome, and we can go into, I'm having a brain freeze in the moment. We can go into Google extensions. All right.
Okay.
And you can download a free transcriber. Google Transcriber.
Okay.
Google, I want this to be on the sidebar. So whenever I watch a YouTube video, every word out of that person's mouth, I want the AI transcriber to list it. All right.
Okay.
You can then copy and paste everything you said in your video because it's one of your top performing pieces of content, right? Copy it all. Throw it in the ChatGPT. Right? Just copy it and paste it in ChatGPT.
No.
Chat this video, and you tell Chat how many views it had, how many whatever. Chat, I want to create more content around this. Give me 20 more content pillars similar to this that could potentially yield me the same results. Chat's pretty quick.
Really quick.
Really fast. Right?
Yeah.
So,
and that's a really good tip right there.
Exactly. So you can then take that. Now Chat knows what the conversation was about and everything. Now Chat's going to give you content pillars. Now, what are content pillars? Content pillars is nothing more than, let's say, taking the concept of WhyNotResults. Whatever WhyNotResults does as a business, your content pillars are the subject matters, which are a variety of different ideas that will be pleasing and attractive to a potential client, right? So as a content creator, you take those content pillars and you strategize out, how often am I going to utilize these content pillars to offer content? Okay. Most business owners are like, Derrick, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I know what my business is. Derrick, we even have a mission statement. We know what we're doing for a living. But how do we create content? You create content pillars. And you can have 1,000 content pillars, right? Do you utilize all of them? No. What's trending? What's happening? What are the current events in the world by which your content, your services resonates? Let's talk about that first, right? And let's always strategize out with a content calendar. And let's give it 30 to 90 days. Every 30 days, we have to be evaluating the results of the last 30 days.
Yeah, because you went in with a proactive game plan.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
In hopes of having whatever X result you were looking for, right? Which that's the strategist. That's that side. We're going to do this, put in this CTA, see what resonates better. They're taking a look at that.
Exactly. And we're always doing that.
And so as the business owner, listening to what you're saying, I'm really frustrated with myself right now. I'm sorry. Yeah, well, it's part of it. I'm a firm believer. If I'm not failing, I'm not trying hard enough.
Right.
That's just the way I live my life. I always throw it out there. Version 1 is better than version none. But at the same time, I see the big key step that I missed here. How can I be anything that I've been successful and good at in my life? I've always had a coach, right? Doesn't matter what it is. I sought out other professional advice and coaching, but because I could just post to social media,
right?
I skipped that step of the coaching, how to improve.
Yeah,
how to make a higher percentage of those jump shots, right?
Right.
Getting their hands in the right place and getting that proper footwork in place. The person who's paying attention to the details, because I'm just thinking, if I would need to make something over there.
That's right.
Right. And it's those coaches who's point out, okay, good, you're on the right track. You're getting the ball to the hoop, but you got to move your feet. You got to get in this position. You got to get that elbow wherever it needs to be, however it needs to. I've had that in the past, and why in the hell I didn't get a social media coach, and strategist involved earlier, is really making me rethink my life right now. I mean, it makes sense why I hate it and why all my friends hate it is because they didn't start with a guy like yourself.
Yeah, when you start and then you start posting, and then months turn into maybe a couple years, you get into the deep waters of something has to give, but there's no strategy. And so it does get frustrating. But as a strategist with social media, I have to keep reading. I don't just figure this out because I'm looking at the numbers all day, right? I'm literally looking at random YouTube videos and just watching the behavior. I'm grabbing a few books. I'm a Gary Vee fan. I'll read what he's talking about. Sometimes I agree, sometimes I don't. But it's a matter of consuming as much information as I can have, and then I'll measure that to what I'm doing if I'm looking at a particular client's numbers and how the behavior is happening. And then I'll listen to, there's a great content creators out there. Think Media is a really big one, and they have great information. They speak to some pretty key individuals in the social media space that offer some enlightening aspects of social media, things that we're not really thinking about on a regular basis. As I was mentioning to you earlier, Mario, one size does not always fit, one business to the next, the social media strategy. So learning what the 12-year-old is doing who's making $100,000 a month, and there are actually 15-year-olds who are making that kind of money. What is he or she doing?
Yeah, we're all perplexed by what are they doing?
What are they doing? Well, one of the things that they do that we as adults don't do is they have fun first. They have fun. They're having an absolute blast. Okay. It goes back to what I was saying before.
Yeah, this is work.
Yeah, this is work. But see, by definition, it's still work for them. They're getting paid, right? But for us, it's not fun. Whereas for the child or the young man or woman that's doing it, it's fun. But when you start to peel away the layers of these content creators that are really making an impressive bag with social media as influencers, they're working. In fact, I have the privilege of knowing some content creators that are doing very, very well, and they're young adults. And I ask them questions all the time. I'm always asking them questions. How long do you sit and script your video content? How long are you looking at your best content? They're all day, every day. In fact, my niece has friends who do very well in the social media space, but beautiful young ladies. And they have these get ready with me videos, and they travel videos, and they're just fun, and life is amazing. You see them all the time. But I had the privilege of one day being in my own kitchen, and two of them were sitting on my couch, and it was the two of them, my niece, and they was having a young ladies powwow, right? Me and the wife were in the kitchen cooking. And there was a video of a young lady doing her makeup on our television, and they're having conversations. But the two young ladies who were influencers, where this is their job. Okay. Because I'm a social media strategist, I paid attention to them and how they were taking the content. Now, while all the other young ladies were having fun and talking and eating and laughing, they were laughing and involved, but they were really engaged And I walked over to hand them, I was giving them chips or whatever they're having at the time. They were taking notes. No one else was taking notes, but they were. Their sisters. They were taking notes. I was like, wow. And so I asked, why are you taking notes?
Because they're pros.
Right. Because they were trying to find out the behavior. Because this particular person on TV, on the YouTube channel, on the television, was doing very well. And this sister team, they're doing very, very well, but they wanted more knowledge. And I was like, see, they get it and they enjoy it. Right. So when we see the finished product of their content, or you see the finished product of someone who's a content creator, that wasn't random. That was not a random video that they just put up.
Well, and I think that's a big reason why us 45-plussers really have a hard time and struggle enjoying social media because we don't look at it that way. We don't study it. So therefore, when we make our content, we don't like seeing ourselves on camera.
That's true.
We didn't grow up with this, being okay with how we look. Then we start picking ourselves apart. We get caught up in all the things that people don't pay attention to at all. They don't look at that at all. It doesn't matter if the hair's off, the color's the shirt looking like this. They don't care.
No.
Those influencers you're talking about, that doesn't come into their mind. They're more about the delivery and what is the strategy behind what's being going on. And we need to embrace that.
We do. Many people that I speak with, it is what I'm saying, Mario, because I speak with, again, that age group, 45 and up. That's who I tend to speak to when I go to networking meetings. Sometimes people in their 30s and 20s, but oftentimes, unanimously, people are afraid to be in front of the camera. And so I say this all the time to people who are afraid to be in front of the camera, right? It's, what is your message? Why am I convincing you to be in front of the camera? Because I want you to build exposure, number one, and I want you to get your services out there. You can have the best idea, but if you're in the back of a cave, it doesn't exist. You don't exist, right? So get in front of the camera, because at the end of the day, the consumer, no offense, but if I'm watching your content, Mario, I don't care about you.
Right.
I care about what you're telling me and how it's moving me emotionally. Is it funny? Is it changing my life? Is it putting more money in my pocket? And so on and so forth. Right? That's really what we're looking at. Because I could show you content creators, and it's almost comical how some people may look. They couldn't care less. They're giving you content and you're taking from that content and you're trying to use it if you can, whether it's a laugh or whether it's making a direction in your family or whatever.
And I think that is one of the great things about social media that's really been surfaced is that, typically almost every person you run into, there's something that they can teach you about.
Yes.
Right. And they have a certain area of passion that they just love and they've studied it. And so it gives them that platform to share that. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about social media. But it also, going back to that age of not growing up with it, you do feel, speaking for myself, and after having a lot of reps in front of the camera now, initially it was rough. I hated it. I still don't love it.
Sure.
But I do it as a necessity, and I am having more fun.
It's good.
But I would also, the practical and business side of me would appreciate seeing better results.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
I definitely, just me valuing my time and not wanting to waste my time, would definitely like to see a lot more action.
Okay.
Right. And again, I think listening to what you're saying is such a miss for me. This is of what I have not been thinking of, the way I have been. Was it I don't know if I just didn't hear it in a way that connected with me or what.
Sure.
So I'm just sitting there going, dang, Mario, mad at myself. But I think a lot of other business owners would also gain a lot of value from starting with that coach, right? Getting that coach involved after they've committed to making content, because that's a problem. Once you're willing to go down this rabbit hole, you can't turn it off.
You shouldn't turn it off. And having that coach, it's just great to have the direction, right? We have CRMs nowadays and we have the Mondays and all these things. Why? Because it's planned ahead and it keeps us organized. And so with social media, it should be considered the same thing. But the notion around social media was I'll just post and hopefully I'll hit the lucky number and blow up.
Totally.
Right. And an archaic way of thinking nowadays because things are so intentional and the results can be had by most people who want to just have staying power.
It feels like it's harder now than it was before. And I thought it was hard before. So I think most people are going in like it's even harder today because you have to be that much more intentional.
So to that point, is it harder today to make content or to no. Is it harder today to become prevalent and grow your social media fingerprint than it was before? I'll say this to that question. The easy answer is yes.
I was going to say, I'm going to go with yes on that.
It is. But I like that reality because it separates the wheat from the chaff much faster. See, back in the day, you know, you had your PewDiePies who was making content and it was wide open. People still had the same bad behavior. We were lazy. And the people who do well just stuck with it, right? The algorithm was brand new. And at the end of the day, the algorithm wanted who? The most consistent content creators to do what? Post their advertisements on it.
Right.
So we don't care what you posted. Just post on YouTube. Nowadays, it's so fine-tuned and niche-y because there are some very dedicated individuals. You have men, women, and children now that are dedicated all day, every day. They eat, sleep, drink content pillars. And so now, while things have tightened up, right, your success growth potential is still the exact same. So I don't like to say that, let's say, for example, YouTube is saturated. It's not, because the majority of people on YouTube that have a channel don't make content. I'm saying 90% of them don't make content. And the same thing.
Say a little more. What did I miss there?
So 90% of those who create content,
okay,
that have a YouTube channel,
okay,
don't create content. I'm going to say that again. So 90% of the people that have a YouTube channel don't create content.
What do they create?
A YouTube channel, and they look at it. Oh, I haven't created content.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
And just they have a YouTube channel. They made, right. For example, I'll use this. Me and JB were talking recently about podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And podcasting in general is wide open. For example, statistically, 90% of people who create podcasts don't get past the third episode. That's wild to me. Of the 10% that do, let's now make that 10% into a 90%.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get to their 20th episode.
Wow.
So what that means is you're left with this wide open space where the podcasting industry is now saying you should create a podcast. Why? Just create the podcast and just outlast everybody. And you'll just be high in the ratings because everyone else is lazy. Hate to say that, but they're going to fall off. Why do they fall off? No strategy.
Right.
Period.
Lose sight.
No content pillars.
Right.
What are you talking about? You're not planning ahead. You just felt good that day. You know, you had some nice slice of cheesecake. Okay, let's do a podcast, guys. You do four episodes and then you're done. Same thing with Facebook groups. Oh my God, there's probably 1 million Facebook groups. If you go to Facebook, there's probably too many Facebook groups. But over 95% of Facebook groups are unsuccessful. Why? Because the creator who created that Facebook group does not curate that Facebook group. They put no content in it. So the idea that social media is saturated, it is not. You have a gazillion imposters.
That's interesting to think about it that way.
And that's encouraging.
It is. It is.
Right.
Believe me, you're inspiring me here. For you think kind of my.
Yeah, it should be encouraging because when I look at.
Because I do feel defeated.
Say again?
I do feel defeated in social media, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Right. Because here we do have the video studio. We're able to make a lot of content.
Right.
Right. We've been doing it for years. And it's like, we're not really seeing growth. And we kind of, why we adjust. But again, I'm going to circle back. Didn't have a coach. Tried to figure it out on our own.
Yeah. I mean, Mario, something as simple as having a content calendar, brother. It's just, it's the world. It's a world of difference.
Well, we have a content calendar, but it's just for just putting the post. Okay, we're going to put it out there. You know, we use a cloud campaign. So the tools are there.
Yeah.
But we are using them incorrectly. We're using them without real true strategy. Right. And I think that's what, when you went, that's what you pointed out, right? When you went through and did your review of our social.
Yes. When I looked at, you want to talk about it for a second?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
So when I,
Yeah, no, it is. So that strategy side is definitely missing. And before we get into that though, because today, I think getting into that is going to be a podcast in itself.
Okay.
Right.
Sure.
I mean, I think that's a pretty big conversation.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Sure. And so I think I want to table that for now and just kind of, I think we've been going pretty good little jaunt here and just know that this is the first of many. I look forward to doing a series with you using WhyNotResults as a guinea pig to showcase what we're doing right, but what we're doing wrong, and being very vulnerable with and open to hearing that and putting that out there probably, because I think other businesses need to realize we're all, they're not alone.
No.
But I think what's very common is us plus 50s, we're missing the step of having the strategy. We are not sitting around like the two influencers on the sofa taking notes. Right. We, and even worse, not only are we not recognizing and trying to take notes to figure it out ourselves, we're not taking to the next step saying, hey, you know what? I'm not willing to do that. So I better hire somebody who can expedite that process for me.
Yes.
I better, right? That's what it comes down to. Because people, spending $5,000 a month for a business that's seeing $1 million a year.
Wow.
I'm just saying it's nothing for people. They should be doing a lot more than that.
Exactly.
Right. But constantly people get into digital media. Digital marketing. It doesn't work. They're making posts. They don't see growth. And so to your point, they stop.
Yep.
Right.
Every time.
They become that 90%. Oh, it didn't work for me. I tried it.
Yep. That's it. And they didn't try, but they thought, yes.
And in their mind, they tried, but it's like going out again. If we're going to keep using basketball analogies, I don't know why. You just making us come up with basketball here. It's no different than me just picking up a ball and going to shoot and keep shooting the basket, in the hoop and thinking I'm going to become a better basketball player without surrounding myself with better players to learn off of, that I can sponge off of, getting that coach and being intentional.
Exactly.
And the businesses out there, you just better. That's the moral of this conversation to me is, I have not been intentional.
Sure.
And I haven't been intentional with finding the coach. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether you can afford to pay somebody to do it for you, or if you're just going to go put yourself in the free environments where you're getting information, you better.
You have to.
You better, or else you just expect to be stagnant out there and be hating your life on social media.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to be in it, I actually, I'm definitely, from this point forward, I am going to try to be much more intentional.
That's a wonderful word, intentional. And to those that will see this, I have to say this as well. Having a coach matters, sure. But having the right coach is even better. And there are entities out there that talk about helping businesses grow their social media, grow their, let's say, your social media fingerprint. Mm-hmm. And when we don't really fully understand that, it may sound good because they're going to talk to what we mentioned before was the vanity score of your growth, right?
That's what I've been looking at.
Just view the vanity score. You get the views, engagements, impressions, and all that, right? Comments, if you have comments. But, it's fair to ask a social media strategist, can your strategies leverage more revenue for my bottom line? And what does that look like? Right?
Yeah.
I love asking fellow strategists that question. Oftentimes they can't answer that question, right? Because there hasn't been enough experience in that area. Nowadays, you can literally buy subscribers. You can buy followers. It's ridiculous to do it. You can buy bots. It's a vanity score. It makes the number look good, but you're not making any money, right? And so
I would argue there's a purpose to that for certain people.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Who really don't care about having, really building a big, you got to admit, there is an area where that makes sense.
Sure.
Right?
It makes sense until it doesn't. Because a lot of times when I'm looking at just business owners, the vanity score is of no consequence if we can't turn that into making money.
Totally.
right? And so when it comes to, let's say, how are we going to grow your social media network, your marketing endeavors, right, on social media platforms, we have to consider the strategy taking us down this road where eventually we're going to make money. We're going to bring in leads. We're going to bring in potential new clients. So how does that work? So,
and that's what you help do.
Yes, I do.
So what you're saying is you can help me leverage my bottom line.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's what most business owners want. I'm not in it to be an influencer. I don't need to be the cool kid out there.
Right.
I want to have a good life and be spending time not making social media content. So but I also understand that I need to, because it's good for my business. It's good for my family. It's good for my legacy. It's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build a business that I can sell one day.
Yes.
Right. And so when I start looking at the core fundamentals of what am I trying to do? Well, I better spend way more time on the strategy and what you're talking about. And finding a guy like yourself has not been a priority of mine. And that has been a big mistake. And so I'm really happy again to run into, and I look very much forward to the series we're going to do and hearing all of the things I don't want to hear.
I'll be gentle.
And I want to get it to me through a fire hose, and, and I'll slowly but surely try to implement it, because, man, it has not been all that fun.
I got you.
And it can be very painful to see these numbers be just flat.
Yeah, I get it.
And I'm over it.
I bet. Should be. Yeah.
So thank you for being here today. Thank you, Jan. I know, man. I think that's a great jump off point. And
pleasure, man. This is awesome.
This is going to be good. This is going to be great.